Tonight, it's the turning of the half century as we celebrate what we remember from the last 50, or at least 10, years in America. Jackie Robinson changing the game of baseball forever. The Iron Curtain speech by Winston Churchill. The Truman Doctrine to contain communism and keep the world free for democracy, and the successes and failures that technology has taken thus far.
As well, the Marshall Plan's success in the global economy. The controversial Roswell UFO incident, was it all just a hoax? The Berlin Airlift success in maintaining West Berlin for America, and our prestigious award for not Man of the Week, not Man of the Year, but Man of the Decade.
This is NBC News Nightly for December 31st, 1949. News at 9, starting now. NBC News, your number one broadcasting channel in America, boasting the brightest, the strongest, the most clean-shaven news team in the United States. We are unparalleled in newscasting and water polo. This is NBC News Nightly with Scott Hetrick, Stephen Rothbart, Alex Singer, and Luke Colhane.
Off tonight with the hottest story, truly a tale of a man versus the world. This man is Jackie Robinson, a baseball player who seems to have turned the entire game upside down 3 years ago when he was 28. The reason so many people are taken aback by this player is simply a matter of appearance. He is the first black player to ever set foot in the major leagues. He's taken criticism of all kinds for this, some positive, some negative. However, he breaks completely from this average mold of black citizen. He graduated from UCLA as the only person, regardless of race, to receive a varsity letter in 4 sports: football, baseball, track, and basketball. And there really doesn't seem like there's anything he can't do. After a rocky first season, even including the St. Louis Cardinals threatening to strike if he played in a baseball game against them, Robinson showed that he was really worth by leading the league in sacrifice hits and stolen bases and boasting a .427 slugging percentage. He performed so remarkably well that he earned the title of Rookie of the Year for the major leagues in 1947, and getting the National American Rookie of the Year in 1949. For a man held back by so much doubt and public scorn, no one has proved his mettle more than Jackie Robinson.
Another essential turn for American history happened on the 5th of March, 1946, when Winston Churchill gave his Iron Curtain speech. It happened in Missouri as he received an honorary degree. He gave a dynamic and influential speech upon his acceptance of the degree. Our reporter Luke Colhane was a witness those 4 years ago. Luke, what exactly did the Prime Minister say?
Well, Scott, the Prime Minister introduced a new concept in the field of governments and politics. He described the spread of communism versus capitalism. Take a listen from this recording from earlier today.
In the Baltic, to Trieste in the Adriatic, an iron curtain has descended across the continent.
It's apparent that Britain's stance on communism remains clear. This was once again reassuring to us here in America to know we have one more capitalist ally with us in our fight against communism. As we look back in a few years, we realize that a few developments have been made, and tensions have in fact risen since then. I'm Luke Colhane, NBC News.
Thank you, Luke. Up next is a word from our sponsors.
New technology after World War II brought us the Styrofoam cup. In the 1940s, Styrofoam cups are popular, cheap, and sanitary for one-time use. Styrofoam, the brand name trademarked by the Dow Chemical Company, is made from a lightweight, petroleum-based plastic. Styrofoam cups help sensitive fingers from hot and cold beverages. Americans can be proud of this new technology. The manufacturing process releases hydrocarbons, which combine with nitrogen oxide in the air. In sunlight, the combination forms ozone, so we know it is safe and all-American. Save trees and use Styrofoam cups instead of paper cups. In terms of energy consumption, paper cups consume 12 times as much steam and 36 times as much electricity. So paper cups cost 2.5 times more than Styrofoam cups. Finally, remember, nothing tastes better than coffee in a Styrofoam cup. Good.
We cannot forget the memorable Truman Doctrine and its inspiration to all of us in the fight against communism. Given by President Harry S. Truman in 1947, its goal was to support the free people who were resisting communism and oppression. The doctrine was immediately aimed at Greece and Turkey because they were most direly under the communist threat. Britain had supported Greece for years, but because Britain was about to go bankrupt, the good old United States jumped in and sent almost $400 million worth of economic and military aid. In Turkey, Stalin wanted part of the Dardanelles, a strategic position between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean. To stop this, the United States sent Turkey $100 million worth of economic and military aid. The Truman Doctrine has today morphed into a current U.S. policy of containing this evil communist threat. Instead of leaving the Soviets alone and recovering from World War II, the US and NATO were and are ready to contain the spread of communism and help all people that were and are still oppressed by communism. Without the Truman Doctrine, where would we be today?
And now it's time to take a look back at the major technological advances that we've taken in this past decade.
And there have been quite a few fiascos, isn't that right, Stephen?
Quite right, Scott. Let's think of some of the biggest one here, the mobile phone.
What a stupid idea that was. It's large, bulky, and completely unattractive.
I wouldn't be expecting this to catch on for a very long time.
A very long time indeed, Stephen.
In fact, the only way I'd ever use this if I could connect to every one of my friends at the same exact time and have over 25,000 games available for use. How could that ever happen?
Boy, the mobile phone sure was a bad idea. That won't ever catch on. Ever. Now, let's look at a success in the past decade. The microwave oven.
It's been fantastic. Now my food gets done so quickly.
My wife doesn't have to spend so long making me dinner every night now. It makes her feel like she has a life outside the home.
It's been at the near top of all sales in America. Now for our next item, the instant camera.
There's been mixed reception with this camera. Usually positive reviews from attractive people, but negative reviews from those who don't want to see images of themselves.
That seems a bit biased to me, Scott.
Extremely, Stephen. I can't believe what this world is coming to, where people can't just have unbiased opinions in matters.
Which brings us to our next product, the Slinky.
The Slinky has been a revolution to all children 10 and under, causing kids to spend 70% of all free time watching it fall downstairs.
Parents are becoming slightly disturbed with this, claiming that their children are spending too much time watching Slinkies and cannot fully develop personalities that are healthy.
It would be a shame for kids to grow up one day spending hours doing the same thing, wouldn't it, Stephen?
It sure would be, Scott. Sure would. Who can imagine that?
Not me, that's for sure. But that's all the time we have for this segment, and we'll be right back with the Truman Doctrine after this quick message from our sponsors.
A bit of history. The 1940s were not easy for Americans, with the horrors of World War II going on end, so many of our soldiers fighting overseas. However, Americans kept our spirits up, and smiles on the faces of our children and soldiers with classic candy from the 1940s. One of those candies was the semi-flat chocolate circles that we now know and love as M&Ms, along with Junior Mints, and also Bazooka Bubblegum. Yes, Americans could even feel like Humphrey Bogart by enjoying a bubblegum cigar, candy from the 40s inspired by 40s movie favorites such as Casablanca. What is amazing is these candies still taste great today.
And now it's time for a look back to see what the Marshall Plan has done for us.
The Marshall Plan has been a success. A total of 16 European countries received $13 million in aid from the U.S. This aid has permitted our allies to gain an increase in industrial capacity, help the global community, and made sure we stayed one step ahead of the Soviet Union. We can tell from the results that Harry Truman's appointment of George Marshall as Secretary of State and Marshall's start of the innovative program has been a success in preventing the spread of communism in Western Europe. We have created political stability. Rest assured, Americans, the Marshall Plan has had major implications on the Cold War. Some complain that tensions have increased with the Soviet Union. We know now that the program helped bind Western European nations together. More than just money, the Marshall Plan has been a successful philosophical tool to oppose the communists in Eastern Europe. This is Alex Singer reporting from an American base in Europe. I have seen the first-hand success of the Marshall Plan, and I salute our chief, Harry Truman, for his foresight in this area.
Do you believe in aliens? Because I do. It all started with the Roswell incident, an extremely controversial, but likely true issue, that happened on July 8, 1947. In the quiet town of Roswell, New Mexico, a press release was issued stating that an alleged alien spaceship was recovered by the Roswell Army Airfield's 509th Bomb Group after having crash-landed on the ranch of an unsuspecting homeowner/farmer, Jeffrey Jones. The event was followed by an alleged government-wide cover-up, where all traces of evidence were erased by our country's officials. Why would this happen? What don't they want us to know? Those have been the questions surrounding the accident. It is debatable whether or not true extraterrestrials have been found, but this event will likely forevermore be labeled as the single most publicized event in UFO history. Sadly, the incident has been almost completely forgotten by the public because of the efficacy with which the government has pulled the wool over the eyes of the masses. But most believe that this issue cannot be ignored and will continue to resurface and influence the culture of our country over the years.
Fellow Americans, use Barbasol. Barbasol is America's #1 men's shave cream brand. In fact, 80% of men who use Barbasol are 100% loyal to the brand. Maybe it's because Barbasol softens even the toughest whiskers, or that it's still the best price on the shelf. Yes, Barbasol is made in America and has been since 1919. From the creation of the first tube of Barbasol to today, Barbasol has remained committed to making products in the USA. In fact, 100% of the 10-ounce Barbasol shaving cream products are made in America. We also believe in purchasing American-made materials and equipment whenever they are available. Shave Barbasol, like the bravest of American men.
It's the time you've all been waiting for. We are about to give the world's most coveted award, the NBC News' Man of the Decade Award, to Dwight D. Eisenhower. Some argue that this award should have been given to FDR, but not this news team. This man's great contributions to the world began in the late 1943, when Roosevelt gave the position of Supreme Allied Commander to him instead of Marshall. During his time as commander, he planned and carried out the integral Allied invasion of Normandy. While planning, he made the ambitious decision that made D-Day a success. Without him, it's very likely that today we'd be living under the harsh grip of Hitler's totalitarianism. He went through painstaking efforts to even make this possible. First, he had to convince the Allied leaders to send in French resistance forces to cut off German supply lines before the attack even began. Then he had to argue to the point of resignation with Churchill to get the command of strategic air supply depots. However, all this hard work paid off and resulted in the largest successful military invasion in history, and it gave the Allies a strategic hold in France in which to launch an unstoppable offensive against the Germans. Because of Eisenhower's military genius and ambition, the Allies were able to turn the tide in World War II and eventually defeat Hitler. Eisenhower had an unforgettable influence in the course of World War II, and without him, the world might have been taken over by the military powers of Germany. Truly, the world is in debt to this man.
If you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Две эту войну освободительную.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour.